Hello, and welcome to Indiana Issues, the weekly public affairs program that goes beyond the headlines and sound bites and brings you Indiana's newsmakers in their entirety. I'm your host, Abdul-Hakim, the editor and publisher of IndianaPolitics.org. Well, it looks like the Bayh family name may be entering in politics this year. We'll talk about it. Indiana Issues is underwritten in part by the Indiana Conference of Mayors, a Trust Local program, the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Law Firm of Thrasher, Bushman & Vocal, the Institute for Quality Education, the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, and Downtown Comics, your place to escape. You're listening to Indiana Issues.
Do you want an investment that is sure to pay off? For Hoosier businesses, there's no better deal than membership in the Indiana Chamber. Members get free sales leads, human resource consulting, and access to a PR resource center. And that's just for starters. The Indiana Chamber is 800,000 employees and 5,000 companies strong, with room for many more. Take advantage today to receive benefits that will help your company thrive. Call 800-824-6885 or visit indianachamber.com.
I'm a single woman with a full-time job and a high credit score, but was recently turned down for a loan.
I was denied a promotion where I work because of a previous injury.
I couldn't get into the grocery store because the entrance was not wheelchair accessible.
The Indiana Civil Rights Commission reminds you that discrimination still happens. If you feel that you have been the victim of discrimination, call the Indiana Civil Rights Commission at 1-866-332-4748 or visit our website at in.gov/ICRC. This message is brought to you by the State of Indiana Civil Rights Commission.
Welcome back to Indiana Issues. I'm your host, Abdul-Hakim, the editor and publisher of IndianaPolitics.org. We'll throw another hat into the ring for Indiana Secretary of State. Beau Bayh, the son of former U.S. Senator, Governor, and Secretary of State candidate Evan Bayh, is following his dad's footsteps. He announced this week he was running for Secretary of State next year. Here's that conversation with Beau Bayh. Well, the race for Indiana Secretary of State just got a little bit more interesting. Beau Bayh, the son of former U.S. Senator and Governor Evan Bayh, is throwing his hat into the ring. And we've been hearing about this for a while. Matter of fact, I kind of jokingly, when I ran to him at a Democratic function, I think earlier this year, like, hey, Senator, hey, Governor, how's Secretary of State, how's it going? They just sort of gave me the look, Abdul, come on. So join us on the newsline is Beau Bayh. So, Beau, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well, Abdul. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity here.
Oh, no worries. So let me ask you this. Why would you want to give up a life of being a clerk for a judge, a former veteran of our military, and to go work in that cesspool over there called the State House?
Well, real simple answer to that, Abdul. Someone's got to clean it up. And it starts with the Secretary of State's office because he is the biggest offender. We have seen a person in that office that has spent $90,000 of Hoosier taxpayer money on a luxury SUV so he could drive around our state and act like a king. He's hired his family members, pays him six-figure salaries. He's increased his office budget, his headcount, his own salary. He travels around the world, to India, to Hungary, refuses to disclose the purpose of those trips or who's paying for them. We deserve a Secretary of State that cares more about Muncie than Mumbai. I'm ready to clean up that office. It's time to get rid of the corruption, get rid of the grift. It's not partisan. It's not about its political party. It's about honesty and integrity. We need someone to clean up that mess.
And we'll get to Diego Morales in just a second here, because you're right. The political laundry list is long. It's like looking at a CVS pharmacy receipt some days. But I suppose my question is, what does Beau Bayh bring to the table apart from the Bayh family name?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that I was in the Marine Corps 5.5 years, sometime active duty, sometime in the reserves. I was lucky enough to lead units, and in the units I led, the Marines came from all different types of backgrounds. You can imagine, big cities, little towns, and they definitely didn't all vote alike. But we had a common mission, and we had to come together to achieve that common mission. And I hope to bring that type of leadership to this office because it really shouldn't be partisan. We have to deliver for Hoosiers on making sure our elections are secure, no illegal votes, period. But I also think that the person in this office should do everything he or she can to increase voter participation in our state. We rank, you know this, Abdul, we rank 50th, bottom of the United States in voter participation. That's a shame. I hope to change that through my candidacy and hopefully winning this election. I was a lawyer, as you mentioned. I worked, I just finished a clerkship for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, adjudicating federal disputes, and some of the cases I worked on had to do with securities fraud. Secretary of State's Securities Division has investigative power over alleged cases of securities fraud in our state. I hope to bring that experience to this office to make sure our consumers aren't getting ripped off. And then also the Secretary of State's office has a lot to do with business registration in our state and being a good partner to new businesses that fuel our economy. I'll ask you this, Abdul, as a new business owner in our state, if you're registering with the Secretary of State's office, how can you in good faith expect that person to be a good partner to your business when he is handing out no bid contracts to his campaign donors? It's fundamentally going to break trust between the business owners in our state and the person who's running that office. They can't expect him to deal in good faith with them. So it's time we have someone with honesty. It's not partisan. It's not about political party. It's about someone who's going to just be honest with people, who's not going to use his a position as an elected official to benefit himself, but it's actually going to serve the people. That's what I want to do.
Now, obviously, you're right. The Secretary of State is the chief sort of election officer in the state. Also, they do automobile license dealing and business license as well. Anything you'd like to do, Beau, in one of those two areas, other than the election process?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot we can do to modernize some of our systems. If you go online and look at the business registration site, as you can imagine, like a lot of other government sites, it's not the most efficient tool in the world. But one thing I would love to do, and this has to do with transparency and campaign finance disclosure, Abdul. I would ask all of your listeners, go, and you've probably done this, go on the Secretary of State's website and try to pull up someone's campaign finance reports. They make it almost as hard as possible to find these things. And you got to ask yourself, is this by design? What are they trying to hide? And you know, I think it's not unreasonable to say, to look at this and say, who's given to this guy? His campaign donors, and then he's awarding them state contracts. So maybe it is by design. Who knows? But one of the things I'd like to do is to take that tool and make it just work better. I mean, it should be, the way it is now, you basically have to type in everything correctly from the PAC to pull up the finance reports. We should have some tool where it gives you a suggested list to pull down, and it works more like a search engine that most of us are comfortable with, and not this Byzantine thing that we're currently dealing with. We should, if people want to pull up someone's campaign finance reports, that should be made as easy as possible.
Our guest on the program today is Beau Bayh. The name sounds familiar. He is the son of Evan Bayh and the grandson of Birch Bayh, so a long-established family name here in the state of Indiana. Running for Secretary of State, announced his campaign earlier this week, and so as we play this conversation on the air, his announcement is sort of 2 weeks old, 2 days old. So, Beau, what has been the reaction from your fellow Democrats?
Yeah, I think we're building positive momentum here across party. It's not just Democrats. We've had early generous support from Republicans. I've had Republicans personally reach out to me and say, hey, I'm glad you're doing this. And that just goes to show two things. It goes to show the just awful way that this office is currently being conducted, that members of both parties can look at what's being done and say, hey, we got to put an end to this. And then two, it shows that people are hungry for a better type of politics. People are tired of the partisan bickering in our state. They want a leader who unifies people, who reaches out to someone they don't always disagree with and tries to find common ground. That's what most Hoosiers want. They don't want this extreme politics that we've seen take hold in recent memory. It's time for just some responsible leadership, someone who's willing to work with other folks, and that's the kind of leader I want to be.
Now, I want to say when Diego ran 4 years ago against Destiny Wells, he had a lot of issues, nowhere near as many issues now as he did back then. Destiny thought she could capitalize on that, but at the end of the day, Diego still won. What would you do differently than former candidate Destiny Wells?
Yeah, I mean, you ask a good question. The first part of my answer is going to revolve around there being a lot more stuff to talk about here, which you brought up. Second thing is I'm just going to work my butt off. Not to say that Destiny didn't, but I'm going to get around to every county in this state. I'm going to talk to voters and Hoosiers wherever they are about what they're feeling, about what they're dealing with. I mean, look, Abdul, we got some real problems in this state. We got an affordability crisis. The cost of utilities is through the roof. The cost of living is through the roof. The cost of health care is going up. Our roads and bridges are crumbling, and the state legislature, there's some folks from Washington, D.C. coming on Friday to try and pressure them into doing a partisan redistricting in the middle of a decade here, which is unprecedented in our state. It is telling that they are not conducting this session to handle those issues: affordability, healthcare, better roads and bridges, better schools. They're conducting, or they will conduct, a session to further gerrymander our map and accumulate political power for themselves and their friends. It's an issue that most Hoosiers don't most Hoosiers don't want a further gerrymandered map. They want elected officials to deliver on the things they care about: affordability, better schools, safer streets, those things. It goes to show where some of these folks' priorities lie. It's unfortunate.
Our guest on the program today is Beau Bayh, Beau, the son of Evan Bayh, grandson of former U.S. Senator Evan Bayh, ready for office, making his announcement this week. So we're talking about his campaign, his platform, and, of course, his possible opponent, incumbent Secretary of State Diego Morales. Beau, let me ask you this. Obviously, right now, you're the only declared candidate on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, there are at least two declared candidates. There's Diego Morales, the incumbent, and Dave Shelton, the Knox County clerk. Is your campaign one against Diego, or are you perhaps prepared to run against Dave Shelton, who is not Diego Morales?
Well, I just want to make one correction for the record, Abdul. There is another Democratic candidate running, and people should check out her website. Her name is Blythe Potter. I think you may agree with me. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. More competition in our politics is a good thing. It's just like business. If there's no competition in business, consumers are dealt bad results. Same thing as politics. If we have no competition in our state, then the natural result of that is going to be elected officials who feel like they can get away with anything. And that's Diego Morales is a natural result of the little competition we've seen. Mitch Daniels has written about this, and I tend to agree with him on it. I know the Republicans are going to have a convention just like we will too, and I look forward to competing and having an open dialogue and debating the issues with the ultimate nominee. I do think it's telling. So one of Diego Morales' challengers, Dave Shelton, who you mentioned, I really commend him. He came out strongly the other day in an interview with Adam Wren I was reading, opposing the partisan redistricting effort in Indiana. That takes a lot of courage from Dave Shelton to stand up to a president of his own party. And so I commend him for that. He also came out strongly in favor of abolishing straight ticket voting in our state. I agree with him on that position. I think that's the right thing to do. That would chip away at some of the partisan gridlock we've seen in voting patterns. So I commend Dave Shelton on both of those stances.
Also, my friend, when you look at the history of the Secretary of State's race, since 2004, at least since I've been here, Republicans have held that office, whether it was Todd Rokita, Connie Lawson, Charlie White for a little bit, and now Diego Morales, and Holly Sullivan had the job for a while. What makes you think voters want to switch over from Republicans to Democrats?
Yeah, well, Abdul, you know this. The office is not partisan, and I will not run it in a partisan way. That would be a shame. That would be a disservice to voters. Look, the office has to do with running elections and making sure they're secure and fair. It has to do with helping our businesses succeed. It has to do with rooting out securities fraud in our state and regulating the car dealerships. None of those things that I just mentioned should be partisan. So I think people are hungry. People in our state are hungry for a better type of politics, someone who can bring people together and do away with all this partisan bickering. So you ask me, are people ready for a different political party? That's not the right question, actually. It's, are people ready for someone who is going to be honest, who's going to stop wasting our money, and who's going to bring people together? That candidate can exist in either political party. It just happens to be, that I'm in one side of the aisle.
Let's talk about, let's explain, dig into that a little bit further, because obviously a couple of criticisms against you. Number one is your age, 27 years old. Heck, when I was 29. When I was 29 years old, I was just starting law school, so part-time and doing a bunch of other crap. So age is what it is. But also, there's been some issues raised about your residency. Do you live in Virginia? Do you live in Indiana? When you did the video shoot from the apartment, it wasn't furnished. So yeah. you know the opposition will be building a file against you if they haven't started already. Yeah. So for our audience, if you could explain your position on those two things.
Well, first, I know you probably remember the old saying by Ronald Reagan: "I will not make age an issue in this campaign. I will not make my opponent's lack of experience an issue in this campaign." So that I'm not going to do that either. I happen to be young, but I think people are hungry for more young people getting involved in politics and more energy. And just to address the second part of your question, if Diego Morales wants to make this a contest of who's a real Hoosier, bring it on. I was born on the north side of Indianapolis at St. Vincent's Hospital. I commissioned the Marine Corps recruiting station in Bloomington, Indiana. I took my oath of office to serve my country as a United States Marine Infantry officer in the War Memorial in Indianapolis. I worked at Cummins Engines, a great Indiana company in law school. I worked at Barnes & Thornburg, a great law firm here in town. I am as Hoosier as it gets. And if he wants to make this a contest of who's more Hoosier, bring it on, man. Let's do it. And, you brought up the thing about my apartment not being furnished. I was moving from Bloomington, where I was in the 500 square foot little apartment there downtown off Kirkwood. I just bought this new place in Chatham Marsh. I'm really lucky to be a beneficiary of the VA loan and some things like that have allowed me to do that. And it's a little bit bigger, so I didn't have all my furniture in yet. But I'm getting it in here now, and I had to buy some new stuff. But I'm settling in. I'm liking the neighborhood a lot.
And by the way, just for the record, Diego Morales is the last person to be talking about voting in residency. When he lived up in Hamilton County, voted in Hendricks County, and the whole 9 yards. But that's just me thinking out loud. So that's.
Yeah, that's right. He did commit that violation, and I voted in every Indiana election since I've been able to. And I see some of them. Dave Shelton's trying to go after me for, you did mail-in ballots. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry. I was serving my country in the Marine Corps. What was I supposed to do, man? You want me to fly home to vote in an election in person? Is that what you expected of our veterans? Out of our servicemen and women? I mean, it's ridiculous, man. I went to my polling station in Bloomington last year and voted early in person. So it's just, look, Abdul, this is what happens. This is what happens when a child has their toy taken away from them. They lash out. Diego Morales is worried that his personal slush fund, which has been the Secretary of State's office, is in jeopardy. He's worried about, I can't pay my family members anymore. I can't travel the world on the taxpayer dime. I can't increase my own salary. Of course he's going to lash out. I mean, that's why he ran for this office. He didn't run for it to help people. So I expect the attacks, and I welcome the debate. Bring it on, man. Let's do this.
Well, how do you think? It's also interesting too. Like I said, in the debate, in the discussion, obviously there'll be lots of issues thrown about. Diego Morales is kind of on the Donald Trump MAGA crowd. Indiana's sort of traditional Republican base. You're kind of bringing in young voters, maybe a lot of Democrats, disenfranchised Republicans who are just sort of tired of Diego, particularly those in the donut counties. How would you fare your assessment, assuming that it is you and Diego who both get out of the convention next year? How do you assess your chances here in Indiana?
I think they're pretty good, Abdul. I think they're pretty good, and for two reasons. First, our platform is one that cuts across party lines. The first day in office, the first day in this office, should I be successful, we are going to conduct an independent audit of the office. I'm sure you probably had mice in your house. I did growing up. And you have the exterminator come over, and when they see one mouse, it usually means there's like 50 or 100. This is just what we know with this guy. This is just what we know. The luxury SUV, the world travel, the hiring the family members, the increasing his own salary. Let's see how deep the grift goes. Break open the books on this, and let's follow the money. I mean, I welcome the input of any official in our state, of any political party, and how to conduct this thing. That's day one. Root out the corruption, waste, fraud, and abuse. The second part of my platform, increasing voter participation, and as we reasonably can, and making sure that no one is voting illegally in our state. Nothing partisan about that. We should all be on board with that. And then helping out small businesses in the business section of the office and doing some stuff with securities fraud as well. So none of those things I just mentioned is partisan, or at least they shouldn't be. And that's going to appeal to broad swaths of Hoosiers, and I'm confident that if we run this campaign the right way and I do my work as a candidate, that we're going to be successful.
Beau Bayh with us for a few more minutes on the program today. Beau Bayh announced candidate for Secretary of State. Wants to take on Diego Morales or Dave Shelton, whoever the Republicans nominate. And also there's Libertarian in the race as well. Beau, let's talk about voter participation. Obviously, Indiana has a low participation rate, but it's been my experience in my research. I remember doing this in grad school, that you could extend voting hours, you could have mail-in ballots, you could actually have vote in people's living rooms if they wouldn't show up unless you have good quality candidates on the ballot.
That's right.
I would argue that it is competition, like you mentioned before, and quality candidates that'll drive voter turnout. I put to Barack Obama back in 2008 here in Indiana, where voters turned out in droves, and actually point to 2006 when Democrats took over the House and Senate after Ms. Janet's first couple of years. Democrats came out, et cetera. So my question is, what can the Secretary of State do realistically to increase voter participation?
Great question. Big part of my platform, Abdul. It is time here in Indiana, just like our friends in Florida, Ohio, and Missouri, that we adopt a citizen-led ballot referendum process. Some of the things that the state legislature has done, take partisan redistricting, for example. I know it hasn't happened yet, but all signs point toward that happening here in the near future. That issue is wildly unpopular with the voters of this state, yet they're probably going to go forward with it because they're getting directions from the people in D.C. Let's let the voters decide these issues. Put it to a vote. Let the people choose. And if we do that, if we have big issues where we give people in our state a direct say in them via the ballot referendum process, imagine how much energy that's going to create, Abdul. You're going to get off the couch if you feel like your voice really matters. And the way our process works right now, the state is already gerrymandered, and so people sometimes justifiably feel like their voice doesn't really matter, like their vote doesn't count because the districts are apportioned in such a way where there's not a lot of competition. So if we adopted, and I'm all for this, and I look forward to working with whomever on this, a citizen-led ballot referendum process, that's going to increase energy in our state. It's going to make people feel like they have a voice, and that's going to get people off the couch come election day.
Let me ask you this. Speaking of primaries in Indiana, obviously we have closed primaries, Republican, Democrat, et cetera, et cetera. Have you ever given any thought to an open primary, or kind of like what they do in California, which is it's an open primary, Republican, Democrat, anarchist, whatever, and the top two vote getters, they show up on the ballot unless you get like 60% of the vote, and then you sort of declare it the winner.
Yeah, I haven't given that idea a whole lot of thought. I know that they do that in California and I believe in New York, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And actually, you guys do it at your conventions because remember, it's 50% plus one, and the lowest vote getters dropped off until you get to 50%.
That's right. I have to look at that. That would probably require some structural changes in our government. But look, I'm for anything that gets away from some of this, I think, just unhelpful partisanship that we've seen. If we can nominate more common sense candidates that are willing to work with other people of the opposing party and that can form policy in a bipartisan manner, I'm all for that. If that's the system, if the system you're describing is going to lead to that result, then sure.
Like I said, we got a couple minutes left here. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to chat with us. Like I said, I know how busy it is running for public office. I actually tried it a couple of years ago, as you may well be familiar.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, all I can tell you this is when I got home that night after losing the primary, my wife was like, honey, I'm sorry you lost, and I get your crap out of the garage. So I want to put my car back in there. Like, yes, dear. So I always got to keep the wife happy.
That's right.
With you on the ballot, let's say you're the nominee. You're at the top of the ticket because it's that weird midterm election where where the Secretary of State's office is the highest vote getter, is the top of the ticket and sort of leading the charge. What does that do for your campaign, or does that put any more pressure on your campaign? Number two, what does that do for down the ballot races? Now, I'm not talking auditor treasurer, but also some of the county races in and across Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a compelling candidate, which I hope to be, and a well-run campaign at the top of the ticket, it's true that that energy and that competency can flow down the rest of the ballot and help out people in other places. So I think that if I can run this campaign the right way, we can get around the state, meet people, get people energized, inform them about the issues, and we're going to create a lot of energy here, and that's going to enthuse a lot of voters to get out and inform themselves about the other races too.
Let me ask you this: how much of a role is your dad going to be in this campaign?
Yeah, I mean, someone asked me the other day, like, how much advice is your dad giving you? I said, well, a lot, and a lot of it's good, but sometimes you want to just say, I got it, man, and move on. But he's an amazing father for so many reasons. He's been there at every step of my life, Abdul, and he had a busy job growing up, and he went to every basketball game I had, every football game. He was our coach, and it was just like he had any other job, to be honest with you, which is a testament to the kind of man he is and the father he was to me. So he's going to be supportive of me. And not just because he's my dad and I'm his son. Of course he loves me, but he also is deeply concerned with the trajectory of our politics in our state. And you mentioned this at the top, Abdul. He held the Secretary of State's office, so it is personal to him to see that office run in the corrupt manner that it's currently being run. So yeah, he's going to help me get around the state here and get our message out. I'm very lucky to have him as a dad.
Obviously, sometimes dads give our kids advice that they don't necessarily want to hear. And sometimes advice that they need to hear, because your dad, he had a lot of victories under his belt, but the last go around wasn't as successful. So will you also learn from some of your dad's shortcomings and shortfalls?
Yeah, I mean, what did he always tells me? He said, "Son, I made mistakes in my life, so you don't have to." Because he tries to tell me, where he went wrong, and so I appreciate that. He's done that throughout his life. Politics is a fickle business, Abdul. Sometimes there are things outside of your control as the candidate that will sweep you up and take the race out of your hands. That may have been the case the last time he tried to get involved in this in 2016. But the advice that he has given me that I take to heart, and this is advice my granddad gave me too, is just be honest with people. Just be honest with people. People could smell a phony from 1,000 miles away. And people will forgive you if you're just honest with them. You can't promise people the world because you're never going to be able to give it to them. But if you can promise people that you'll do your best, that you'll always tell them the truth, and that you'll work hard, and they're going to be willing to work with you on some stuff. But that's the advice he's given me. I'm just very lucky to have him as a dad.
Let me ask you a personal question. What would your mom say if she were here about you running for public office?
Yeah, I mean, she would be a little worried, like any other mom would be, to see their son going through this and how nasty and divisive things are today. But, I think she'd be proud too. She knows I love my country. I love our state, just like she did. She was from Southern California, but she moved here when with my dad to settle down and when he ran for office. And so she always liked to say I was a Hoosier by choice. And she adopted our state as her home. And she was first lady when she was 29. And she was just a wonderful woman. I was so blessed to have her as a mom. I miss her every day. So I think she'd be concerned about her son getting attacked by all these folks and all the negativity, but she'd also be proud of me because I see a problem in our state and I'm going to do everything I can to fix it. And that's the way she raised me.
Well, we got about 2 minutes left here for to close up shop here. So I'll give you the chance to make your sales pitch to the voters. or I'm sorry, take this back. The convention goers first, then the voters.
Yeah, I think those are the same thing. Convention goers or voters. And our message is one that's going to appeal across party, across ideology. Look, the Secretary of State's office is not a partisan office. It shouldn't be run in a partisan way. My plan is simple. Day one, we're going to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse that has become synonymous with that office. No more spending money like it's going out of style. No more luxury perks for politicians and their insider friends. Day one, audit the office. Number two, increase voter participation and keep our elections secure. No illegal votes, period. But we should be in favor of adopting some measures like my citizen-led ballot referendum that are going to get people off the couch and get our abysmal participation numbers up. We're 50th in the country. That's a shame. We're going to help small businesses succeed, and we're going to root out securities fraud in our state. But beyond all the policy, Abdullah, beyond all of that, and I hope your listeners hear this, it is time in our state that we have a better type of politics. People are sick and tired of the division, of the anger, of the partisanship, and of the unwillingness to listen to and work with each other. If you believe in more unity and more progress and less partisanship and more working together and recognizing that we have way more in common as Americans and Hoosiers than we do that divides us, join this effort. It is an effort for you. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent or whatever. If you believe in that message, you're welcome on this team. Let's do this thing.
Beau Bayh has been our guest on the program today. Beau, we appreciate you being with us. And by the way, nice job starting with $2 million in the bank. I saw your dad's campaign finance report, so I actually was able to scribble down that in.
Let me correct the record there. The $2 million is in his account, and I have never asked him for that money, and I will never ask him for that money. That's his decision, and I'm having some success early in fundraising on my own accord. So I will never ask him for that money.
But if your dad say, "Hey, son, I got a couple bucks for you," you're not going to be crazy to not take it.
Actually, you want a funny story, Abdul? Might. So my dad actually donated $1 to me yesterday because he wanted to get on some of our ad, our email copy that's going out to some of our supporters to try and fundraise. So my dad, he's not given. Not only has he not given me the millions that you just described, he has given me a single dollar.
All right. Well, our guest on the program today has been Beau Bayh, son of Evan Bayh, grandson of Birch Bayh, the Bayh family name, very prominent here in Indiana, announcing he's running for Secretary of State. So, Beau, my friend, thank you very much for being with us, and you and I will be in touch relatively soon. And tell Elizabeth, make sure you get a copy of the next cheat sheet. There'll be some interesting stuff in there about Mr. Morales.
All right. Thanks, Abdul. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
And that'll do it for this edition of Indiana Issues. Remember, folks, you can catch throughout the week at our parent website, IndyPolitics.org. Also find us on Facebook and the platform formerly known as X. I'm Abdul-Hakim Shabazz. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk next time here on Indiana Issues.